guys, it's Shelly here. Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. On today's video, I thought I'd share with you some of my favorite color combinations for wood. And the reason I thought this would be a good idea was because while I was coloring, I realized that along with our wintry, snowy pages, we have some very cozy indoor interior scenes in a lot of our winter themed pages. And of course, a lot of the most cozy ones are the ones near fireplaces with wooden floors and wooden furniture around. And I thought it would be nice to just share some of the color combinations that I use on a page where there are a few elements of wood on that page, and just to try and differentiate those particular wooden elements so that they don't all look the same, and to just give it a bit of interest. So yeah, I love coloring wood. I find it quite relaxing, just like I find coloring leaves relaxing. And I love coming up with lots of different color combinations. Sometimes I don't stick to the browns and the grays. I do very crazy colors, but sometimes I do like to keep it quite conventional. The color combinations I'll share with you on this video will be the more conventional ones, meaning the browns and the grayish tones rather than going crazy, because I think once you have an idea of how to color wood, you can use any color you want to make an element a wood effect with whatever color you want. And I'll show you some pictures. Not that my wood effects are not very realistic, but it gives you an idea of the texture that's on an element, and that that particular element is wood. So I'll show you some ideas of some of my more conventional wooden wood color combinations, and then the slightly more crazy ones. But yes, on this video I hope to share with you hopefully a few more conventional colors that you could use in those warm, cozy, wintry pages that you'll be coloring probably up until February. So yeah, let me just show you a few examples of my wood and why I enjoy coloring them so much. So my first example is this one here from Teresa Goodridge's Country Charm. The reason this page is out of the book, I don't usually pull my pages out of the book even if they have perforations, is because my dad came to visit and earlier this year, and I'd given him the Country Charm to color in because he loves doing more realistic pages when he tries to test coloring. And so he was really enjoying it, and so I gave him the book. I'd only done one page in it. I took this page out and I gave him the book, and he took it back with him when he went back to Canada. He's actually finished the book, guys. That's amazing. I've never finished a book since I've started coloring, but yeah, he's finished Country Charm. So hopefully when he visits me next, I'll tell him to bring the book with him so I can show it to you guys. But he's been enjoying coloring, which is brilliant. So yeah, that's why I don't have it in the book. But this is my first example of wood on how I color wood on a page. And I think I've done how I color wood. So this particular video is not going to be about how I color wood, more just sharing some nice color combinations that you could use in your pages just to give it a bit more interest, just to give it a bit of variation in those pages. So for example, on this page, I've used probably 3 different colors of wood. So for example, this decking. And then we have this little table there, that's a different color, and the swing, and I think I may have used the same color for that tree trunk there, and the decking is a different color, and then I think the wooden frame here is a different color. And sometimes it may not be very obvious, so I think the difference between this wood and the decking wood is definitely obvious, but not so obvious for the decking and the wooden frame here. But it does give a little bit of a difference, a little bit of an interest, which is not so obvious to the eye. You may not say, oh, you've colored different wood there and there. But when you look at the picture, it just makes it look a little bit more interesting than just keeping all the wooden elements the same color. So yeah, it's nice to have some different color combinations for wood to make it look a little bit more interesting. This is obviously not a winter page, but yeah, I just thought I'd share it with you. Then I've got Kinoko Igusa's Symphony of Cute Animals, and I think it was this page I wanted to show you. Yeah, again, you can see that I've used two different sort of brownie woods. So we've got this crate here, and maybe the table I tried to make it slightly more different, but it's not very obvious. So if I had made it a little bit more different, it would have been a bit more visible that that's a table underneath that crate. So I could have worked on that, but we have the fence there, and then I tried to make that wood, so a different color wood there, and then I've done a bluish with a bit of hints of brown wooden crate there. So again, just playing with colors. And for here, it's just doing the effect of wood that gives that, the idea that that's wood, but I've used blues. So yeah, once you get a hang of coloring wood, I'll try and remember to put the how I color video on how I color wood in the description box below. So at least that might help with the, you know, in combination with this particular color combination video. But yeah, again, using different shades for our wooden elements on the page. Just gives it a little bit of something, I think. Then, do I remember? Clara Markova, Tenderful Enchantments. Yeah, I think it's somewhere on the back. That's a very early page. Actually, that's a good idea to show you. So that's one of my first Clara Markova pages, actually. And you can see that it's an early coloring, because nowadays I would probably try and differentiate between the wooden, you know, sort of border that I had there. I would differentiate quite a lot with the wooden door there, because it's just getting hidden, and the floor. And so I think I would use, you know, at least 3 different wood color combinations now on this particular page to try and make things a little bit more unique to each other, so they stand out in their own rather than just blend in with each other. So even the little tree branches there are sort of disappearing in the wood. So I think I have attempted to do it a slightly different wood, but I think I would make it a bit more obvious nowadays. So yeah, an early coloring where I've attempted to do different wood combinations, but it's not been so successful in my opinion. I love this page, but yeah, when I'm just looking at the wooden elements, they do kind of blend into each other. But the one I wanted to show you, it's still quite an early page actually. 2021 is this one here. And the reason I wanted to show you was, again, I have quite a few wooden elements there, and sometimes it would make it feel like if you used all the same brown, it would just look too brown. And so you can see that I've got the floor, the wooden floor, quite light. I've used a slightly different kind of wood for the bedding with like, I've obviously used my Albrecht Dürer pencils. I used sort of like a base of cinnamon and light flesh to give it a different effect. I've got a different color combination for the tree here. And then of course I've used a little bit of brown, which is not wood, but just slightly different for the stalks of the mushrooms to make it look different. So it really does help just using all these different wooden elements to give interest to that page, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I really like doing that. Just sort of, if I have a page where there's lots of wooden elements, I like to just change it up on that particular page. And you can already see that I've used a few different combinations for wood. This is the other one. So here, when I talk about wooden elements, I would also include tree trunks and stuff like that. So I have a very different, I think I've used probably grays, and I've added greens to it, to this particular tree trunk, which makes it look a little bit more spooky, darker. I really like that. And then on the building itself, the wooden elements, I've tried to use 2 different browns. Hopefully they show up, but a very light brown for the wooden door, and then for the little panels I've used a slightly darker brown, again just to differentiate it, to make it stand out, so that when you look at this page, yes, you might not zoom into that particular element and say, oh, there's different kind of woods used there, but it looks more interesting. So yeah, again, I've used 1, 2, 3 different sort of color combinations for the wood. I will try and, yeah, I'll see which color combinations I use, but these are the kind of combinations in this video that I'll be sharing with you. Yeah, the ones we would use most often, because it's very rare that you'd use, not rare actually, but it would be certain illustrations that you'd use a little bit of crazy colors. Do we have anything here? Yeah, here again, I've tried to, so with all this white fog effects, it's hard to tell, but I've tried to differentiate again between my wood paneling and those bars of wood there. Yeah. And then what else? This time the tree trunk, because I wanted it was a Halloween page, I wanted it to look spooky. So instead of using browns for my tree trunk, I went for grays, which you can do. Yeah. This is which book? The autumn book. Do I have any others? Here I've used a very different kind of color for wood, which is possible. Like I said, once you know how to color wood, you can use whatever color you want if it fits into your illustration, depending on what color scheme you're going for on your page. Here again, I've used the wood combination where I use cinnamon and light flesh as base colors, and then I've got the more conventional browns for my tree trunks, again to give it a bit of difference, a bit of yeah, variation. And then I've obviously used brown herring also. When I know there's not wooden elements, but the browns I use, I try and differentiate it so it doesn't blend into what we've used for the other elements. Yeah. So that was Teresa Goodridge's Autumn Charm. Maybe I don't need to show you all of these examples, but oh yeah, this is my pink page. So this one is, Erie's Romantic Country, the First Tale, Japanese edition, bought from Amazon Japan. And here, what I wanted to show you again is differentiating the wood, the floor of the wood from the display, you know, where they put the cakes and stuff, so the display wood. So just giving it a little bit of difference, but then I've gone totally different for the wooden door and the wooden frame. It still looks like it would be a wood element. It doesn't look like it would be metal or anything else. It still has that effect of wood. For example, the sign here, yeah, as well. It looks like wood, but I've used turquoises for it. So like I said, you can use whatever colors you want. I'm not going to share these kind of combinations because you can literally just use whatever colors you want when you're coloring wood. I'm going to share my more conventional ones because yes, I use a variety of them. Yeah, that was Romantic Country, the First Tale. I can't remember. Yeah, again, just showing you a variety on one page, really. This is Year of Witches by Usiku. Again, this is quite a cozy page, which is what I'm talking about, our winter pages, even though this is not a winter page, but it looks like a cozy interior scene. I've tried to differentiate between the floor, the cabinets behind, the shelves, and then even the window frames are different, and the chairs. So the window frames and the chairs and table, the furniture are the same. The cabinets are a different wood color, and then the flooring is a different wood color. So I've used all conventional sort of brownish tones of colors, yet it gives a little bit of an interest, a bit difference, so things stand out. If I was to use the same browns for the cabinets behind or the floor, they would all blend in together and you would not get any sort of, not 3D effect, but you wouldn't get much differentiation between the different elements on a page. So yeah, I do like to play with the different colors. So that was Year of Witches by Usiku. Just a couple more for different, just 2 more I'll show you, and then that's it. This one here, this is a color along on the channel that we did in June for summer. And yeah, again, I've used, my colors are toned down on this, in this particular book. I feel like I use my coloring is a bit more subtle. It's not as, it's still bright colors, but where is it? Even this is the most recent one I've done. Somehow I just sort of hold back on making them so bold, But yeah, different color combination, conventional browns for the furniture. Then I had to differentiate, use a different color combination for this chopping board and the floor, so that everything sort of separated from each other. And then over here as well for this, I made this bucket wooden, so a different color combination for that. And then obviously if you're going to use browns for other elements, then you have to try and differentiate those browns on that particular page with everything else that's brown. So like Ruri's little shorts there, the baskets there, obviously the breads. So yeah, this was a fun page to try and use so many different browns. I'm not very good at monochromatic coloring, so you will rarely see me do a page all in one color, different shades of that color. But this was fun trying to figure out all these different browns that I'm going to use for the foods and the wood and the baskets, things like that. So yeah, it was I really enjoyed coloring this page and trying to, it was a challenge coming up with all those different combinations. And then the last one I'm going to show you for conventional is Nice Little Town Valentine's Day by Tatiana Bogema. And this is a slightly different brown combination. I think I came up with it on this page, and now I'm enjoying using it, but a grayish, sort of light grayish wood, which I really like. So I'll share that combination with you guys as well, because I've used it here as well now. So yeah, I think I've done 3 pages, but I don't think there's any wood color in that one. Oh yeah, there is. This is just normal brownish. And then obviously I did mushroom head of orange, so I just did the wood effect with orange over there. Like I said, you can use whatever colors you want when you're doing wood. But yeah, again, here I had to differentiate between the gate and the door, and then the tree. And then also the tree trunks are a different brown or wood color. So yeah, I enjoy playing with the color combinations for woods on pages. And then just to show you a couple of examples of slightly different colored wood. This is Christmas Charm by Teresa Goodrich, and this is a page I did last year for Christmas, and I didn't want to put browns, and so I went for red wood to keep with the Christmassy sort of colors, the reds and the greens. So I made it yeah, red wood. You see, so yeah, these are the kind of color combinations I won't share with you on this video, because like I said, you could literally use any color and make an element to look brown. But I'm going to share with you all my brown ones. So this is Morgan O'Brien's Matchstick Mouse Floral, and I did a wooden door, but in like magentas and pinks. Yeah. So, and then I've used a little bit of brown there, but it just made this so nice and colorful and fun, like Morgan O'Brien's pages should be. And then the last one I'll show you is Erie's World Heritage Travel Through Time, and this is the page I'd done. Oh yes, and I didn't want to use brown, so just to give it a bit of color, because I think if I remember doing the background first, and I wanted something that would pop, and I thought brown would just bring down the whole illustration. I love the bold bright colors, as you guys know, and so I went for blue wood. Yeah, so for the wooden door and the window frame. So yeah, you can play around with any color for wood, but today I want to share with you some of my favorite conventional colors that I would use in all these cozy wintry interior scene pages that we're doing. So I definitely should have, hopefully, at least 6, and if I as I'm doing them, if I come up with any, if I remember any additional ones, I'll share those with you as well. So I'll share with you some more, I think a combination of all the colors, the brownish and grayish wood colors I've shown you in my illustrations. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay guys, so this is the first time I've actually written down my combinations for wood. I have quite a few. So I have 12 combinations to share with you guys today, and I didn't actually have any of these written down. I think I've got so used to my Albrecht Dürer pencils, I know the colors, and so I've never found the need to write it down, but I'm so glad that I'll finally have it all set out in front of me. So hopefully I've thought of the ones that I use the most. And yeah, let's get started. Let me start sharing it with you guys. So basically I've just filled out the little what do you call it, the pole and the grass. At first I was going to color in the poles the same color as the wood, but when I realized I have so many color combinations, I thought, oh, that's going to take a long time. So let me just stick to doing those, and that will give you a good idea of what the color combinations look like. I'm using Nina cardstock to do this. It's not the heaviest weight, but I'll put the information in the description box below, and I've just written out the color combination so it's easy for me to, rather than having to think about it as I go along, I've got it all set out so it'll be quick for me to show it to you guys. But in the description box below I'll write down the names as well. I'm using my Faber Castell Albrecht Dürer pencils, but you can follow along with your Polychromos or use a conversion chart to figure it out in your favorite brand of pencil. All right, I think I haven't referred to it for a long time, but Karen from My Colourful Country Life has got a very good conversion chart with lots of different brands of pencils. So I'm sure you would hopefully be able to find the one you like the most and just convert it from that chart. So yeah, you can check out her channel. I'm sure she has them included in her descriptions or somewhere on her YouTube channel. So check it out. But yeah, let's get started. I'm going to start with my most commonly used color combinations first, and then the other favorites of mine. All right, so I'm going to zoom in and we'll get started. Okay, so like I said, I will have all the information in the description box below, but with regards to how I color wood, I will also link that YouTube video that I've uploaded below so that you can check it out, because this is not going to be an explanation of how I do wood. It's literally just to share the colors, and I'm just mentioning that again because I did not realize I had so many colors to share with you guys today. Now usually I would base my wood. I love basing my wood, whether it's tree trunks, whether it's furniture, whether it's the floor or panels on a building. I like to base it with my Albrecht Dürer pencils activated with water to give me a smooth base without the whites of the paper showing through. And then I work with the other pencils over the top. I'll see how it works on this paper first before I decide to do that. But of course, if you don't have watercolor pencils, just use your Polychromos or any of your other non-water-based pencils, non-water soluble pencils, and you can just base it with a light layer of a dry pencil. So I'll see how it goes. All right, so we're starting with 179, which is Bistre, and this is first of all my base color. All right, and I'm just going to see how it lays down first before I decide whether I'm activating it. Yeah, I think it'll be okay. But the reason I like to activate it, maybe I should show it to you activated. So let's see, let me first finish laying it down. Because usually what I do is I leave the whites of the paper and then I pull the color slightly into that when I'm activating the pencils, rather than have a uniform Bistre base, if you know what I mean. So what I do is I do this. I'm going to activate it. I always have my water and brush on the side here because I like to activate. I have the option to, so I'm just going to show it to you activated. Do you see how it just smooths it all out and gets rid of the whites of the paper? You don't need to do this, and I'll try and do examples without it as well. All right, so but the first one, I'm just going to show you why I activate. So I'll lay down the color, but I won't put it into the entire element I'm coloring. I'll leave areas of the white, and then I use the water to sort of pull it into those layers, just to give slightly lighter areas of the Bistre. All right, so that it's not fully white, but it's also not just one flat base color of Bistre. Yeah, so I do like to base my wood quite a lot. Obviously now I'm going to have to wait for that one to dry. So what we'll do is I'll just start with the second one while I'm just waiting for that. So the second one is 182 brown ochre. And again, I'm doing a base. Now this time I won't activate it, okay? You don't have to activate it. So if you're using dry pencils, it's actually nice for wood elements because it gives that sort of grainy look. So you don't have to smooth it all out. It's probably better not to smooth it all out if you want a more natural effect of the wood. So if you're using your dry pencils, you don't have to get a perfectly smooth layer, all right, of the pencil. So yeah, it's probably better not to activate it. So if you can't, don't worry. You'll probably get a better wood effect. All right, so I'm just working on this one while we wait for my first example, which is actually my most common color combination, especially for tree trunks. So that was brown ochre 182, and then I'm going to use Van-dyck brown 176. And I start putting in, so the first one is always the base, and then I start putting in my sort of strokes to make it a wood effect. I'm not going to add in all those little rings of wood and stuff. Again, I've done that in the how I color video for wood. So if I forget to put it in the description box below, do let me know. Yeah. So that was 176. Which is Van-dyck brown. Okay, so it actually looks nice, grainy. All right, then we have 177, which is walnut brown. And usually this is just a little panel of wood, but if you're working on a page, you might have areas of shadow and things like that. The darker shades would come into the areas of shadow, and then you can add a little bit for that sort of wood effect, you know, into the highlight areas. But usually the dark shades would be in the areas where something would be creating a shadow in it, or if it's behind an object, to make that 3D effect. Yeah. So these are, the first three are probably my most commonly used, especially for tree trunks, just my go-tos. Quickly pick up my brown pencils and go for it sort of colors, and they're probably my easiest in terms of the number of pencils I use as well. All right, then the last color I use is 175, which is dark sepia, which I absolutely love this color for shadows. I also use it on things like pink and greens, but yeah, so it's not like a flat black, it's not again a flat gray, it's just a nice gray, very dark gray sort of brown color, and you would put it literally in your areas of the darkest areas. Now this is why I like to base, because I will have an area, basically all the whites of the paper would be covered up. In this case, because I didn't activate it with water, I'm going to go in now again with my base color, just to add a bit more of that color back in for the base. Now I could have gone a bit harder with my pencil for the base, but I like to go in with a light layer because I want to maintain some areas of highlight when I'm coloring. And once you've gone in with a pencil very hard, you lose those areas. And so it's okay to go back and forth between your pencils. You guys probably see me do that a lot in my pages. But I think it gives me a better control of the color I'm trying to achieve. So you can just go back and forth. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of my Van-dyck brown. There we go. So that was our example number 2, and a very common one I use. All right, this has dried up, so we're just going to go back in. Now what you'll notice is My first 3 color combinations, there's only one pencil that's different in each of them. Can you actually see the third? Yeah. One pencil that's different in each of them, and that's the base color, and it just does change the look of the base. All right, so I went in and I activated the base. This is the 179, which is Bistre. This is my #1 color combination, easy to go to. I always remember it. And it's easy for especially my tree trunks. Just adding in a bit more of that layer now. And then I'm going in with my Van-dyck brand, which is 176. And adding in my little linear effects of the wood. I'm going to be trying to do it quite fast. They're not going to look perfect, but it'll give you an idea of what these particular combinations look like, all in one page or 2 pages now. And it'll give you the combinations as well. Then I go in with my 177, which is walnut brown. Should probably, sorry, my pencils are quite short, so I should probably remember to use the extender, otherwise my hand will be in the way of you guys seeing the screen. All right, and then 175 dark sepia. Now I did that base of Bistre, but I still might go in with a bit more Bistre. But what I tend to do in my pages sometimes is actually put a couple of colors. So I would have put probably Bistre, Van-dyck brown, and then activated it. It already gives a bit of a shadow in the shadow areas, a bit of the sort of wood effect, and then I start working with my other pencil. So a lot of times I don't just use one color, one pencil for the basing. I'll try and already add in a bit of shading before I activate. All right, that was 175. That's actually quite nice. I could leave it like that because I've got some hints of the 179, which is the Bistre, because I'd activated it and pulled it into those areas. But we just want to emphasize it a bit more. Just bring it in a little bit. There we go. Very subtle difference between the two. It's just the base color that we had changed up, but it gives you an option, yeah? 2 different options. All right, then let me see if I can get this in. All right, #3. Again, we just change the base color. So another very easy color combination, and my go-tos, these 3. 178, which is Nougat. Now I feel this is like a neutral brown, like, you know, the browns are slightly different. So for example, I don't know, I feel like that is also slightly neutral, but that's like a yellowish brown, the brown ochre that we used here. This I feel is more neutral. You get browns that have more of a reddish tone. You get the 175, which is dark sepia, which has gray in it. You have the yellower ones. So yeah, depending on what colors you're using, you'll get different effects of the wood, because yeah, you have so many different sort of undertones to your browns, which is nice. And hopefully I'll be able to share a variety with you. Right now, these 3 are quite similar because yeah, I tend to use them for tree trunks. So they look like the colors you would use for tree trunks most often, for natural sort of brown tree trunks. Now I'm not going to activate them because you've seen what I would do. Again, in the how I color video for wood, I think I do activate my pencils for the basing, so you'll be able to see that in the video. So that's my Nougat. Then I use 176 again, which is Van-dyck brown. And I'm adding in, emphasizing some of the linear effects of the wood. I always start in my shadow area, go into my highlight areas, and on these signs I'm just making the border sort of the darker areas. But on a page you would know where the light is hitting, which areas would be in shadow, so you use that to decide where the dark is going to go, the darker shades. Yeah, so it's slightly different now to those two, definitely. We have the 177, which is walnut brown. And if you want to deepen it up even more, you could use even black as your shadow color after you use your dark sepia, or you could go in with black here rather than the dark sepia, but I'm going in with the dark sepia, 175. Yeah, Nougat, which is 178, just sort of covering up. You don't want your wood to look white, so I'm just going over the highlight areas. Like I always say, it's always easier to add color than to remove color. So I like to do that. Obviously I use paint pens as well when it comes to, I don't think it's dark enough, so I'm just going in with my dark sepia again. I use paint pens as well a lot in my pages to help with the sort of wood effect. I think I show it in the video, so you can always watch it on there, but I'm not going to waste time with it on this video because this is a color combination video. All right, so yeah, that's definitely different to those two. Yeah, I think this one, maybe I haven't added enough of the base, the 182, but it's a yellower sort of brown base. Yeah, so if I add a bit more of that base color, you can sort of see the difference now between the one where we've used Bistre as the base, then we've used brown ochre as a base, and Nougat. Love those three different color combinations. They're slightly similar, those two, but they are different. I probably wouldn't use them on the same page, like on elements right next to each other, because they might not look as different as if, for example, you use that one and that one, or that one and that one. All right, the next one is slightly different. All right, so this one is going to be slightly more sort of reddish toned, orangish toned, reddish toned, and a bit of hints of yellow actually. So we're going in with burnt ochre. Now this is not my base color on this particular element. Again, I would probably activate with the first two colors. I would lay them down and then I would activate with water, but I'm not going to do it on this video. I'll just show you how it works dry as well, so you guys who don't have watercolor pencils, who have the Polychromos, can still sort of follow along. Okay, so this was burnt ochre. Now I'm going to use my teeny tiny 183, which I think is light yellow ochre. Yeah. So it's not a very bright yellow. And I'm going into my highlight areas. Not completely. I'm going to leave little hints of the paper, ever so slightly. All right. Then I go in with 283, and this is burnt sienna, which is where the reddishness of the wood would come from. So if you want like wood that looks like mahogany, for example, it sort of has a reddish undertone, so you could yeah, work with burnt sienna to get that sort of those sort of colors. You know what, when I was writing down or trying to remember what my color combinations are, and I came up with these 12, I realized that there's endless numbers of options or combinations you can do for the wood. Like there's so many different ones. Like I'm going to share 12 with you, but once you've sort of tried out these 12, once you play around with your browns, you will see that you'll be able to come up with more color combinations just with the browns to create some more brown colors. So for example, here I could combine this burnt sienna with some of these browns which we've already done to just give hints of red into your wood. So there's just endless numbers of combinations you can actually come up with. So yeah, sorry, that was burnt sienna. And this time I'm going to use burnt umber as my dark shade. When you're putting down your bases, you should be light-handed, and then you can get a little bit more heavy-handed when you're doing your wood effect. Sorry guys, that's the door. Give me a second. Sorry about that, guys. I was not expecting anyone today, but I think it's my husband's Christmas hamper from his workplace. That's what it looked like to me. I haven't opened the box, but yeah. All right, nothing exciting, nothing to do with coloring. I don't know what I was talking about though, but yeah, we're using our burnt umber as the dark. Now you can look at how much redder this color is compared to the others. And I've not added a darker shade of pencil for this color combination, but you could. So yeah, I think I was talking about, making sure your base is light-handed, and then you can go in slightly heavier-handed as you're working through your pencils. I'm just going to add a bit of burnt ochre because I'm about to come in with my ivory. I just don't want to make sure it's not too white, and a bit of my yellow ochre. But such a different color combination, isn't it, to the others? So this one I haven't added. This is 103 ivory. I haven't added a darker shade, but you could go in with darken it up even more if you wanted with walnut brown or dark sepia. But I'm going to leave it as this. But once you sort of try out these color combinations, you'll know what you like, and you'll probably sort of play with other colors. All right, lovely. So those are already 4 quite different colors that you have to play around with. All right, then let me see if I can get you without having to cut off. No, okay, so I'm just going to position the light and the camera so that you can see the next 2 colors. All right, so color combination number 5. I'm trying to remember what this looks like. Okay, we'll just have to try it. So 180. No, sorry, that's not 180, that's 182. Sorry guys, 180, which is raw umber. Okay. I'm intrigued. Sorry, I've gone a bit silent because I'm trying to remember what this color combination looks like. I'm going very lightly over those areas as well. All right. Usually I would have activated, I think. Then I go in with 176, which is Van-dyck brown. My coloring hasn't been that productive again this month. I don't know where the days are going, but yeah, I was working on one page, which I have finished, which is good. I've started other pages. I hope I get them done. Obviously, I'm working on our color along, which I have no choice, but I'm going to get that done. but I'm liking how it's coming out. So any of you who do watch that video, I know my color alongs are not always the most popular, but it's the eerie one from Romantic Country, the third tail. And yeah, so I'm working on that, and hopefully that will be done soon. Going in back in with my 180, which is raw umber. So yeah, I feel like I'm all over the place with my coloring this month. So I keep starting pages because I don't know, I really like coming up with colors sometimes, and once I know what colors I'm using for a page, it sort of slows down or becomes, my motivation sort of reduces sometimes. And so yeah, it takes me a little bit long to color a page if there's repetitive elements, for example, and I know what all those colors are going to be. So I really like starting new pages, especially at the moment. I feel like excited to just keep, you know, thinking up colors for a new page. And but I need to sit down. That was ivory. I need to sit down and yeah, just sit down and color, you know, one page and just finish a page before I start another. But how is your coloring going? Are you guys enjoying? I know a lot of people like Christmas coloring. I like Christmas coloring. I like winter coloring. My favorite is still autumn, but with regards to seasons. But yeah, I'm enjoying Christmas coloring or winter coloring too. I thought this would be quite handy because a lot of our Christmas illustrations, interior scenes, have like a fireplace and it's cozy, and so it's nice to have some wood color combinations up your sleeve for you to sort of, yeah, refer to, so that you can make your pages look a little bit different every time. I'm just going in, I feel like I want to add a little bit more of my Van-dyck brand, so I'm just going to go in with that. So these are the color combinations. Obviously you guys can color the way you do, like you can layer, you can do however you want it. I like to layer, that's why I go back and forth. But yeah, there we go, another slightly different color combination there. All right, number 6. So I think that this particular the colors on this page are more of the brownish ones, so the ones you'd use a lot for tree trunks, for furniture, for wood, for more natural looking ones. And then I think the other one has more of the grays. All right, so this one we're now going to go in with 182, which is brown ochre. I think this one I would have activated to give a base, but let's see how it works without me activating it. So it sort of gives the undertone, and then I work with just reducing the yellowness of it. But let's see. All right, then I go in with, I've got my pencils all over the place now. I thought I was going to keep them all neat and tidy, but here we go. 178, which is Nougat. It's the neutral brown. I really do like Nougat actually. Yeah, so usually I would have activated my base, which would help with this particular part of the shading, because it give, when you activate the watercolor pencils, unlike Inktense for example, it doesn't make it vibrant, it does dilute it a little bit because it's watercolor. Just like watercolor paints, when you add more water, the color gets more diluted or lighter. So it would have given me a slightly lighter effect to the 182 as the base, and then I would have gone over with my Nougat. which would have been easier to then layer on the top and get the color I want. But that's okay. Let's see how it goes. 177 walnut brown. When I first started coloring with my Albrecht Dürer pencils, which is a while now, as you guys know, I pretty much use these pencils. I have a couple of others now. I have the Caran d'Ache Pablos and I have Derwent Ink 10s. So 3 sets, slightly different in all 3 of them, which is good. But basically, when I first started coloring, this particular color, walnut brown, was my favorite brown. I think even till now, I still really like using it. I don't know why, but it was one of my favorite browns to use on my pages. So usually it's a very small it's a very small pencil because I use it so much. All right, and then in this case I've decided to use black. I'm going to increase my, before I go in with my black, I'm going to increase a little bit of my base color, which was 182, very lightly, just to sort of fill up that whites of the paper because it looks a little bit lighter now that I've put the darker shades. And then I'm going in with 199, which is black. Obviously it's black, so be careful with how much you're adding. It's mainly just for a few effects of the wood grains. So you don't need to add too much, and you could use black in any of your color combinations as the last shadow pencil, just to emphasize your wood texture if you want. It's really nice to just add on top of all those browns that you've put down. It won't look flat once you've added the other browns. It actually gives a nice effect. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. That's different. I'm just gonna, I don't know why I left a gap there, so I'm going in with my 177 walnut brown, just to darken up that bottom. All right, good. We have 6 color combinations, guys. It's nice to see. I'm glad I'm actually doing this for myself as well. I now have an easy way to just look at these colors and say, okay, I'll use that brown today, without having to just look at my pencils and sit and then try whatever. Just naturally go to certain pencils more often than others. This way it'll make me use more of my other browns. Even though I like, these are my favorite combinations, I'm just going to try and zoom you out. So yeah, even though these are some of my favorite color combinations, I don't always remember all of them. When I'm coloring, I'll probably gravitate to some more than others. For example, this first one is probably my most common one to go for. I like using this one with the base of Nougat for furniture a lot. I very rarely go for the reddish tones. I think I would still darken up that in my pages wherever we have shadows, especially mainly. But yeah, I really like that one. So it's nice for me to see it laid out like this as well. So now I will change up my wood effects even more. But there we go. So that's the first 6 that I have for you guys. Yeah. Now let's go to the next 6. So these are slightly different. So for example, the one where I use the light flesh and cinnamon, I have that here. And then I have some gray, quite a bit of wood with grays added in, and then a light brown, a very light brown if you wanted an option for light brown. All right, so let me zoom in and we'll get started. All right, so the first color for this number 7, combination number 7, is 132, which is light flesh, or they changed the name to beige red. All right, now this I usually just do a light base all over. Again, yeah, I would probably activate with water just to make sure I don't spend too much time just putting down a base. With activating with water will mean that I just get an even layer, and it covers up the whites of the paper nicely. So yeah, but that's fine. Then, now I've written here, I made a mistake there, sorry guys, 263 Caput Mortuum Violet. Now you have two options. Either you can use the 263 or only the Caput Mortuum, which is 169. I'll show you with the 263 as well. It gives more of a reddish tone to it. Again, these are the colors I would use if I want some. You could use more of the other brands, but then use the Caput Mortuum Violet or Caput Mortuum over the top to give the reddish effect, like mahogany again effect. You can use this over the burnt sienna. So yeah, like I said, endless number of color combinations. Right now I don't have those kind of combinations at the top of my mind because they're not probably common ones I'd use. But when I'm doing a page, sometimes I just come up with different combinations. But this is a very common one I use if I don't want my wood to look, I still want it to look like brownish wood, but I don't want it to look like the neutral browns or the yellow browns. I want it to look a bit different. I tend to use this quite a lot actually. Probably I would use the Caput Mortuum more than this Caput Mortuum Violet, but it actually looks quite nice with this as well, depending on what color scheme you have on your page. All right, so that was Caput Mortuum Violet 263. Then I go in with my 175, which is the dark sepia. You can see I use this one a lot for my shadow areas. So this is a very different color combination from the other ones I've shared so far, but one I use a lot on my pages for things like crates. And you know, I wouldn't use this for a tree trunk unless I have a very specific color palette going on my page, but usually for things like crates, furniture, certain ornaments in a, you know, on a page. So for example, an old-fashioned clock, things like that. Yeah, so that was my dark sepia. Then I go in with cinnamon, which is 189. And sort of just fill up the highlight areas. There we go. Yeah. And then I go in with my 169, which is the Caput Mortuum. Slightly less, I don't know, violet-y or purpley than the 263. So the Caput Mortuum Violet. Yeah, exactly. Caput Mortuum and Caput Mortuum Violet. Yeah. So I do like this one. And then so because I've gone over it a few times, I'm just going to go over with my dark sepia just to darken up my shadows again, my darker areas again. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this video and it's helpful. But yeah, I thought it would be nice to share it with you guys. I use so many different combinations and I actually really enjoy, and it might sound sad, but I really enjoy coloring wood. I'm just going in quickly with my cinnamon. All right, I said I would be quick with these, but there we go. All right, very different color combination to any of these brownish ones. Yeah, completely. All right, hopefully you guys can see nicely. All right, now we're going in with some grays. All right, sorry, I was just trying to figure out what colors those were. So 271 is my warm gray 2. 271. Okay, so that will be my base color. Oh yeah, I know which color this is. This is the one I showed you in Nice Little Town Valentine's Day, and I said it's like a recent one I've come up with, grey wood. I really like this. Again, totally different effect to wood. To use it for furniture, for wooden panels. Depending on your color combination, you can use it for anything really. But there we go. So that's a base of warm grey 2, which is 271, and then 273 is my tiny little warm grey. So that was warm grey 2. So this is warm grey 4. Sorry, it's so small I couldn't remember which one it would be. The name's not on it anymore. So the first one was warm grey 2, and this one is warm grey 4. All right. And with this one, I'm going in to give my wood effect. As you can see, I've kept the wood effects very simple on for this video. Okay, so that was warm grey 4. Now I go in with 180, which was raw umber. Yeah. And with this one, I'm actually just going to glaze over the whole thing. So when I say glaze, just ever so slightly, not slightly, lightly, ever so lightly, just color over the whole element. So it just, you sort of have a gray undertone, and then you're just sort of bringing in a little bit of the brown, yeah, effect to it. When I use grays, I find when I only use gray on an element, it looks quite flat to me, so I like to add other colors, and I think that's why I came up with this, where I just put a little bit of those hints of the brown over the top to just give it a bit of interest, because I must have been trying, when I was trying to come up with this on the page, when I was coloring the actual illustration, I would have probably thought of doing grey wood. I would have added those 2 grays, and I would have thought, oh, that looks really dull and flat, and that's why I probably added my little brown. Then I'm going in with, oh sorry, is it 275? Yeah, 275. So not, I have dark sepia, which is 175. So 275 is my warm grey 6. Yeah, that's it. So a grey again. So you sort of, it's grey wood, but with that little bit of raw umber, which is like a yellowy brown, it just gives it a bit more of interest. It doesn't just look flat grey. Hopefully it shows up on the camera. On my paper, it instantly changed when I added the raw umber as a glaze over the top. All right, so that was warm grey 6, 275. There we go. I like that as well. I like it for grey wood, yeah. But I really like, yeah, adding that little bit of 180, which was the raw umber. I'm just going to add it in some areas again, not over all the grey, not over the dark grey, so not over the warm grey 7, just adding it a bit there. All right, and then how does that look? Good. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, this one I've just seen, it's 173, which is olive green yellowish. So this one I do tend to activate. Okay, so I'm going to activate it because I want a very subtle base tone of green. So 173. Again, you can probably do a very light layer, but because I have the option to activate, I'm going to activate. I don't know how it would work dry, if it would have the same effect, but basically I don't cover the whole area with my green. I just go from the shadow into the highlights, maintaining some areas of the whites of the paper. I don't want it to be green, I just want sort of like a hint of green. So I'm just sort of laying down sort of a base, but then I'm going to activate it because it'll be easier to then color over the top. So I'm just pulling the green a little bit into those areas and working into my darks. So right now it looks very green, which is fine. But again, it'll give a slightly different effect to wood. I think I'd use this one in a mythographic book. All right. So like I did before, I'm going to leave that one to dry a little bit and work on this number 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, not long to go, guys. All right. So leave that base to dry. We're going in first this time. This is, I'm just looking at the colors. This is going to be the dark, sort of almost black looking wood that I tend to use for more of a spooky effect or a nighttime. So like I showed you in the Tomislav Tomic Drummenwanger book, the tree trunk. Which other page did I show you that might have it? But basically I use this a lot for like when I have a dark page, like a nighttime scene, or when I want it to look a bit more spooky. And it's usually for tree trunks. So I'm starting with my dark sepia, which is 175 in my dark areas. And I'm starting with this in this case because I want the wood element, usually the tree trunk, to look dark. So I don't mind starting with this and going into my highlight areas quite a bit so that that dark effect is, I obtain the dark effect. And now usually I would activate this. I think with my first 3 colors, the dark sepia and the 2 grays that I'm going to use, I would usually activate it, but I'm going to try without, okay? To see how it works dry. Okay, so that was 175, which was dark sepia. Then 274 is a gray. Which one is it? Warm gray 5. Yeah. So I'm just going over the dark sepia a little bit, but going into the highlight areas, sort of smoothing out the transition, basically. Yeah. And then 272, which is warm gray. Sorry, it's a small one again, which is why I'm confused. So that would be 1, 2. This is warm gray 3. Okay. The 272 is warm gray 3. I will put everything in the description box below, which is why, yeah, I'll make sure I put it so you have the number and name, okay, of the pencils. But this is warm gray. What did I say? Warm gray 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. So very gray, very dark, yeah? And then I'm going in with 270. That is my warm gray 1. All right. So again, it's a grayish wood. But, so I would have activated those first 3, okay? But now I'm going in with that, just going over the highlight areas mainly. Then I come in with my 178, which is Nougat, just to give a bit of a brown effect. But I want it to be predominantly grayish toned. So that's why I've chosen a neutral brown. I don't want a yellow brown to stand out too much. I just want to give it hints of a light brown there. So there we go. All right. And then I sometimes add hints of, because it's a tree trunk, usually I would add hints of a little bit of a brighter or a yellowy brown, which will show up in little patches, not the all over. And do I have a color here? Maybe I can use 167. I didn't pull it out, but I have it here. So it's not sharpened, but I just want to show you that on a page, if it's a tree trunk, adding a bit of green to it would give it a really nice effect. So just random areas, hints of green. And then I will go in now with my 175. Sorry, this was the 182. So I put plus or minus because that's up to you whether you add these additional colors. But you could stop at the nougat where it just adds a little bit of the brown, and then go in with your dark sepia to darken it up again, the shadow areas a little bit more. Or you could add the hints of like brown ochre, which is a yellower brown, a light brown, which will just show up little highlights of the light brown. Or you could go in with the green. So that's up to you then if you decide. Or depending on what kind of page you're doing, sometimes in any of these browns, well, not any of them, maybe the grayish browns and the other browns we did on the first illustration, you can add other colors. So for example, I had done a page in Mythographic Menagerie, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Fabiana Atanasio, and it was a winter page and it was a red panda page, and I had a lot of turquoises for the snow and the icicles. And what I did was I think I used my normal, where is it going? This color combination, I think it was this one. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, the first color combination I shared, but then I put hints of 154, which is light cobalt turquoise, to sort of show little reflections of the snow and ice I had done on that particular page, because that whole page was basically turquoises. So on the tree branch, I just added it just to sort of link in the other colors. So you can do that. But like I said, once you have these base colors, you can add whatever you want. So that's a really dark wood color, and I like to use that for spooky pages, like my Halloween pages, for example, or nighttime pages. Yeah, love that color combination. All right, then, oh, sorry, I was going to go to the last two, but we need to finish this one. Hopefully you guys can see all that. All right. So we've already done our base of, hope you guys don't mind me going back and forth, but we've done our base of olive green yellowish, activated it this time. Then I'm going in with 275, which was warm gray 6. I'm doing just my wood effect again, but we have a base of a greenish tone, yeah, so it just gives a little difference. I'm going to use grays now, so it'll be gray wood but with a undertone of green, so it just gives it a slightly different effect. The grays I use over the top are going to mute the greenish tint to the pencil, the base. And even though you're sort of getting rid of the greens, because when you add the grays it sort of mutes the green, it does give some interest and something different to your wood, I feel. That's why I like layering, because when you have different layers of colors, even though you're covering up colors, I've had quite a few comments previously that say, you know, you've basically put down a color and you're just covering it up again. But that's because yeah, I like layering, and it does give a certain depth to your element when you have different layers of different colors. All right, I'm trying to find my 273 because it's the small one, isn't it? So 270, that's 270. I'm just trying to figure out, because with the shades, so that's 270. We have our 271. We need our 272. So I'm trying to figure out from these two pencils. 271. 272 is that one, so 273 is that one. Sorry guys, I should have probably tried to look for my stock pencils, but it's fine. So 273 is warm gray 4. all right? And then I'm just, again, working from my darker gray into my highlight areas, going over my green, muting down the green effect of the base. There we go. And then we go in with 270, which is warm gray 1. This is, yeah, completely. So you use light grays, whether it's cool grays or warm grays, to mute down colors. Yeah, so I'm just going over that central part, and then I'm going to go in with my 175, which is the dark sepia. Even though we've used 275, which was warm gray 6, which was a very dark color, you can go over again if you want with the warm gray 6, but again, putting different colors, I think, just, yeah, makes an element pop. It doesn't look flat. So that's why I'm going in with my dark sepia. Dark sepia has a slightly brown tinge to it than compared to obviously the 275. It is grayish, but it's got a brown undertone. All right, quite a dark one, but I think I pulled out my dark areas too much. You could maintain more highlight area. All right, I think I was doing that one, so I just got carried away. So you can use this for spooky as well with the green undertone, but and more grays, but without using, you know, the nougat and the brown ochre. But if you leave more of a highlight, it looks really nice. I've slightly got carried away there, but that's okay. Then we have our 103, which is my highlight. We're just going to brighten up my highlight areas. Yeah, and there we go. Slightly different, still more on the grays. It could have been a bit lighter like this one, okay? But you could go dark. I guess the dark works as well, depending on what kind of a page you're coloring. All right, let's do this one now. The last two. So what do we have here? We have 178, which is nougat. Yeah, this one I would do it as a base, so cover the whole area with the nougat. I wouldn't leave whites of the paper, so just get a little lighter handed into your highlight areas, but have a little bit of the nougat in those areas, okay? So I'm just going to put in some texture, and then I'm just going to base the rest. Yeah. All right, so that's nougat. Then we go in with 274, which is warm gray 5. From our shadow areas, dark areas. Oh yeah, and when I'm working with wood, something I forgot to mention, and I probably mention it in my how I color video, I don't do circular motions. Yeah, because you're trying to get a linear effect, you're trying to get a certain texture. So the circular motions will not work for getting a good wood texture. All right, more sort of strokes or just coloring back and forth. All right, that was 274. Then I'm going in with my 175 again, which is my dark sepia. So you can see a lot of these colors are basically used over and over. But just in different combinations to give different effects, which is just amazing how you can get so many different effects with just a few pencils, isn't it? I do like the browns in the Faber Castell range. Okay, that was 175. Might have to go in with that again in a bit if I want to darken it up. I'm not spending so much time in just perfecting this, but okay. Then I'm going in with 177, which was my walnut brown. So this is lighter than the dark sepia. So we're just going from the dark sepia into our highlight areas. You can control how much highlight area and how much highlight area you want to leave and how dark you want to make the wood. So for example, that the previous example I gave was really nice, but I could have made it lighter if I wanted and had a different effect to my illustration when I do it on a page. Or you go really dark and have a different, you know, darker scene, nighttime scene, spookier scene. Yeah. That was 177. Then I'm going in with my 178 again, which was Nougat. To fill up those highlight areas. And you can see without activating, you get quite a grainy effect unless you keep going and smooth out the paper. But I think the grainy effect helps your wood texture. All right, and then I'm just going in because I want to darken up my shadows because I have OCD. All right, good. Last one, guys, and then we can have a look at all of them together and see whether they're that different. Okay, 182. Oh, this is the light one, isn't it? So for this one, I like to activate my base. All right, so we have the 182. I'm working from the areas that I would think are darker. I'm going to leave whites of the paper quite a bit, because I want this wood to be quite light in the light areas, and then I'll give a little bit of shadow or darker areas. So slightly different to all the others again. Going in with my water, going from my highlight areas into my dark areas. But when I'm in the highlight areas, I try and pull a little bit of color. That's why you see me go back and forth, just pulling a bit of color into the highlight. But ever so slightly, I don't want it to be all one color. All right. Good. So that is my 182, which was brown ochre base activated with water. And now we need to wait for it to dry. Okay, then we go in with the Van-dyck brown, but I just want to give little hints of this because I want this particular wood to be quite light. So if we need to differentiate, or we need something totally different, or we just want something really light, just give slight hints in the sort of darker areas and a little bit of the grains, but don't bring it out too much, because we want this particular wood to look very, very light. Obviously you can do flat coloring, but I wouldn't leave it at that. I would like to add a little bit of these hints of a darker shade just to give that little interest. Okay, and then I go in with my ivory to brighten up my highlight areas for this particular one, and then a little bit, if you need to, go back in with your brown ochre 182 and bring in some of that yellowish brown. There we go. Brilliant, isn't it? I really liked actually coloring all this wood and just bringing it all together so I can see it as well. Let me put both the pages together now and show you all the options we came up with. Okay guys, so that's my 12 color combinations, the most common color combinations I use. So these are the browns I tend to use for like tree trunks and stuff. You do use it for interiors as well, so very good color combinations to have. This is one of my favorite ones to use for a totally different wood color. and then my slightly more grayish toned ones, and then a very light one, which I think I could add a little bit more of my, I'm just looking at it now, and I think I need, my OCD kicks in, and I would add in a little bit more of the darker tone, okay? But there we go. So I think hopefully these are some very nice colors for you to play around with on your pages, interiors, whether you're doing interior scenes or landscape scenes, for the different colors for your tree trunks and things like that. All those bare trees that you're going to have in your winter scenes with barely any leaves, at least you can play around with different wood color combinations. And I think these are the ones that come to mind easily for me. So when I sit down and when I'm coloring, like I said, I didn't have any record of my color combinations for wood other than which one was it? Maybe, where did it go? I think it might have been this one. I only had this one sort of saved, I think. The rest I've just remembered because it's easy for me to pull out colors, since I always use this one set of brand of pencils most of the time. So I knew these color combinations offhand. But if I was to sit down and color a page, and I would add little variations to these particular color combinations I've shared here, but that would just come to my mind as I was coloring. So I would probably start off with some of these color combinations and then think that, oh, actually I can add this color and it'll give a nice effect. So for example, on this first one, I might end up adding a little bit of burnt sienna, and it will give a really nice little hints of the reddish sort of browns. So it just comes to me when I'm coloring then, but these are basically the basic ones I would start with. And then on particular illustrations, like I said, you can add hints of the greens, slight hints, which will just give a little bit of interest to that that particular wood effect. So for example, it's ever so slight, you can't really see it, but as a whole illustration, it would give a nice effect. You could add turquoise depending on what your surroundings are on that particular page. So you can just play around then and add whatever colors you want. But yeah, these are my 12 most common wood color combinations that I use, my favorite ones that I use, and I'm so happy that I'm sharing it with you guys, and I'm so happy I have it all laid out now. What I want to do is try and figure out how to share these templates with you, because I know some of you asked about the snow color combination template, which I created. Again, I just created this one myself really quickly. So I'll try and figure out if I can, hopefully I figured it out when I'm uploading this video, and you will hopefully have the template to get in the description box below if I can, yeah, figure it out. All right, otherwise I can always try and send it to you guys. So if you guys are interested, drop me an email if you want, or if I'm not able to put it, link it to the video, if I can't figure it out and you want the template, just email me. My email is in the description or in my information page on YouTube. You can even message me on Instagram. So yeah, if you really do want these and I haven't figured out how to share it with you guys on this video, then just, yeah, email me and I'll gladly send it to you guys. All right, okay guys, I'm done here, and I'm so excited to have these all laid out, and I'm so excited to now play around with them again in some of my illustrations. So I will leave you guys to it, and I'll be back with you guys again soon, hopefully on my next video. So until then, take care. Thank you for watching as always, and happy coloring. Bye bye.